What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 531 of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast Hot Tags of the Week. I am your host, as always, Tony Mango. Joining me, as always, is Robert DeFelice.
Hey, what's going on in this world, Tony?
Lots of things in this world. Take two of starting this podcast where I'm not just botching things left and right. You know what we're going to do here. We're going to run down some stories. We're going to talk about some stuff that happened and anything else that is going on that we feel like talking about. So we're going to start breaking that down in a moment. But first things first, we want to remind you that we want to know what you have to say about these topics. So drop a comment below on YouTube, or if you're listening elsewhere, then send us a tweet or post something on Facebook or anything else like that. You know, whatever you can to put your voice out there. Get on top of a soapbox in the middle of town square, wherever you're at, and just get a megaphone like Jimmy Hart and start spouting out your opinions about stuff. But remember to always say smarkoutmoment.com for any of those things.
Don't do that.
Do it. Get on the news, you know, and I'll just be like, look, I didn't tell that person to do it.
And then this record will tell you that, yes, you did.
Well, shh, nobody heard that. Well, we got a couple things, not much to talk about for this week, to be perfectly honest. It sounds kind of crazy to say that after the Royal Rumble, but pretty much everything came before that. And then the other stories are just sort of some fallout from Royal Rumble and a couple little smatterings here and there, some financial talk, an injury, etc. Other than that, TV stuff. Honestly, it's not going to be the longest episode, but we're going to try to enjoy.
That's intentional, but also there is some stuff, because it does sound like Royal Rumble was crazy, doesn't it?
It's not without its validity, because Royal Rumble, if you of course checked out the coverage that we did at the post show, we weren't really feeling it, and it seems like we were not the only ones. It seems like the people in the back kind of feeling a lot of the same things. Very frustrated kind of roster right now. There's reports going around that the morale is really low, that they feel like nobody's listening, and sometimes by pitching an idea, the powers that be will just do the opposite on purpose, out of spite. There are stories about heat on certain people, some original rumors for the Royal Rumble winner, and here and there are some other kind of things. So we're probably going to both have heard things that the other one hasn't, and we're going to kind of fill each other in on that kind of stuff. But I guess I want to start off with just a general talk about some of that thing, maybe about like the original winner, according to some reports, which was potentially, at least he was pitched, and again, take it all with a grain of salt, it was potentially pitched that Riddle would win the Royal Rumble, and that his match with Randy Orton at WrestleMania could be for the WWE Championship.
So, I personally don't buy this.
I don't know either.
Because Sean Ross Sapp said he didn't hear it. And I do work for Fightful, and I do happen to trust Sean. But
Sean's trustworthy.
But this is why I'm so intrigued with Chamber. Because 3 of the 6 are Brock, who's got a built-in story, Seth Rollins, who dating back to January 1st was rumored to be the WWE champion going into Mania, and Matt Riddle, who is rumored that, hey, maybe we just want to have him versus Randy in a WWE title match.
And here we're going to go with the ambulances.
What
Sorry,
do the
everybody.
Think?
I think that they want Scott Steiner to be in it.
I mean, we all do, really.
That was another, just a quick aside, another idea was that Braun Breaker was going to have something with Dolph Ziggler in the Royal Rumble, and that decided, like, yeah, you know what, no NXT people.
Well, they're really building toward, I think, spoilers for a couple weeks now, I think Braun Breaker beats Santos, and Ziggler knocks him out with the zigzag at the end of St. Valentine's Day. Or what? Yes, Vengeance Day. And I think that Dolph Ziggler is actually going to have like a mini run on NXT.
I think so too. That way they just kind of build a little bit of that. And hey, we've got a guy from the main roster on NXT that might get people interested. And then maybe when they announce Stand and Deliver, maybe it's Dolph against Braun Breaker there. I could see that happening.
I could see that happening. I could see Dolph winning, quite frankly.
You know, it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world if that happened and then Braun Breaker just popped up on the main roster already.
And then Dolph Ziggler can just
be that guy.
He could just be that guy.
Yeah.
You know? There
is a chance, and we will talk about, of course, Elimination Chamber and WrestleMania when it comes down to predictions for those things, but, you know, we got to look ahead a little bit. There is a chance that Matt Riddle wins the WWE Championship and that Randy Orton then turns on Matt Riddle because, look, there's nothing more important to heel Randy Orton than the championship. Doesn't matter if you're his friend. It's a possibility. I don't think it's a strong possibility, but it's not like that would come from nowhere. Like, you know, it's not like Eric from the Viking Raiders is going to win the championship. Sorry, Eric. You lost in like 2.5 minutes to Jimmy Uso this week. That's a great way to
back to those short matches, by the way.
Yeah, it's a great way to try to promote the tag team match for Elimination Chamber, right? Super quick match where the challengers lose. But the idea of Riddle winning the Royal Rumble, I never really imagined that was much of a possibility. It was probably just people spitballing.
So here's the reality, right? Different people have different sources. I'm sure somewhere in the pipeline of creative, 3 people might have thought we should run with Riddle, and here's what we would do. And it probably got high enough on the food chain. This is me spitballing again, not a report. I hate that I have to clarify that, but I'm just a guy. That, you know, hey, we're going to run with Riddle. Hey, cool. And quite honestly, if you look at the final 5, Tony, Riddle is the only one that's a full-time guy. If you look at the final 5, and that's crazy. Well, actually, no, Drew.
McIntyre, yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about Drew, but Drew wasn't announced. That's why I forgot about him. But Riddle was the only one that was announced, and that is a full-time guy. Like, it's crazy. And I could see him winning. You know, especially if you want to get one of those like Shinsuke wins, where the guy, it's like, oh, cool, our guy won, and then he, you know, does whatever at WrestleMania. We'll see at the Chamber. I really think that there's a small possibility he could even win at the Chamber.
It's definitely not the craziest thing that would happen, but it's far from what I imagine is what the actual plan was. I just assumed that they were full blown. Brock's winning this. We're doing this whole thing. And then some of the other details that are going around about this is just sort of, do we add to it? Do we take away? How do we get it to the same thing? I feel like months ago, you know, maybe like June or something, they were just like, all right, it's Brock against Roman. And whether it's just for the Universal Championship or it's title versus title, we'll figure it out. Because they do love that whole we'll figure it out thing. And we'll talk, of course, do we think that Lashley's going to retain and all that when we get to, was it next week? Or is it the week after? I don't know. Whatever it is.
Week after.
But that was at least one of the rumors going around. Another thing that's going around a lot, and this is one of the biggest stories, if not the biggest story of the week.
It might be the biggest story of the week.
Is all about Shane McMahon. Now, I cannot track this story for the life of me because this seems all over the place. And maybe that's what part of the problem is. Because maybe, like you said, people could be hearing different things. Maybe it's all true. Maybe half of it's true. Maybe it's whatever it might be. Correct me if I'm wrong. This has been the stuff that's been going out. Or maybe I'm even missing some elements too. Rumors of the original plan was Seth Rollins would enter the Royal Rumble and start something with Shane. And then they decided that doesn't make any sense because he just got his ass kicked and beaten down with steel chairs. Why would he be in the Royal Rumble?
I didn't hear that one.
I had heard, well, Rollins is probably going to win and, you know, do this whole thing at WrestleMania. And one of the ideas was that Shane would be in the mix for fighting Rollins. championship or not, which I guess kind of is sort of the same rumor.
I did hear that there was a good chance Shane McMahon was challenging for the WWE title.
I heard that would be the case against Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania. And then, no, it wasn't that he's fighting him for the championship at WrestleMania. It's that he's in the Elimination Chamber match, or that he would fight Lashley and the Chamber match wouldn't be for the WWE Championship. So that's all over the place as well. And this idea of he did or he didn't, or he kind of did, which is like, okay, you're covering all the bases.
Yeah.
Produced the match. So he either was one of like 6 people that produced it, or he didn't have anything to do with it, and this was something that they did.
So flat out, he wasn't listed as a producer. That's something I can actually say with certainty.
But he used his influence and basically became an extra producer, right?
But because like I could totally see that happening.
You know, and then that idea is all revolving around this, like he was ignoring everybody else's stuff, and that he really just like he wanted to do his shit and wanted himself to be a big deal, right?
Yeah, that was like the first story I heard, was that he went crazy while producing this match. He went on a tirade against Jamie Noble, apparently. That was like on the first Ringside News report. But shout out to them, because credit where credit's due. A lot of people saying Ringside News has been kind of spot on with this one.
So here's what's even more confusing about this to me. He bitches and moans and complains or whatever, supposedly, that he wants to be a big deal. He gets his way. It happens. He's the third to last person in the match. And then he's not only, it's not received well at all, but it's received so poorly that the same people who say yes or no to these things that agreed to do this say, hey, we're doing a complete 180 and you're actually fired?
Well, let's be clear. I'm not sure Shane McMahon was actually fired. I think it's very possible they said go home, but I don't really know if Shane McMahon is under a talent contract. He is a McMahon. I'm sure that, you know, there's some flexibility here.
I'm confused about the idea, though, that it's like everybody always says this. Everything goes through Vince. They always say that. And yet we keep hearing these things where it's like Vince never had watched pretty much any NXT. Vince never, of course, you think fucking Vince watches 205 Live? He doesn't. Come on. He didn't have a fucking clue who Amari Miller and Boa and all these other people are that are just wrestling on there. Not a chance. So we know that that's not happening. He's not watching 205 Live. We know that he doesn't care about main event. Maybe he might catch a minute of it when he's just like, you know, taking a piss backstage or something. Like, he's not caring.
You don't think he turns on his Hulu subscription?
I don't even think he pays attention to who's going out there and fighting during the tapings. But credit to fucking T-Bar, man. T-Bar is always tweeting out like, oh, it's a banger match this week on main event. Yeah, you know, that guy deserves so much better.
Taking over for Ricochet.
Yeah.
In that regard.
But if we believe that everything goes through Vince, and something as big as the Royal Rumble definitely should, then Vince liked this idea with Shane. And then for it to be like, not only do I not like it anymore after it happened, but I don't like it so much that we're going to just abandon any other stories we were going to tell, or we're going to give a completely different direction, or you're off of Elimination Chamber, off of Mania, whatever it might be. That's some bipolar stuff. Like, I don't change my mind like that. I don't think anybody should realistically change their mind with things like that. Unless there's something that happened in the meantime that changes your mind, which to me, I can't imagine it's just people didn't like it. They've been doing shit constantly that people don't like, and they just keep going, oh, suck it up.
It must have been really chaotic, and it must have been like really toxic. Because, like, imagine for 5 seconds that Shane McMahon goes on a tirade akin to his father. Except this one, you don't answer to. So you can literally say, we're not feeling this. It's kind of toxic. Can we pivot? And they say, okay, pivot.
Do you think that this is kind of, I mean, obviously we have no fucking idea, but
how about now? Because I have to. I can't stress this enough. I have no fucking idea.
Right. Could you imagine a scenario where this is like Shane kind of threw a little like temper tantrum and then Vince steps in and he's like, you're embarrassing me. You know what? You're fucking gone.
I would love that to be like, there's so many potential ideas here for what this could have been, right?
Like he could just be like backstage and it'd be like, Dad, I want my match with Seth Rollins. And then he's just kind of like, Shane, what the fuck?
One thing's for sure, the name McMahon, by birth or by wedding, don't mean much right now, does it?
This is one of those stories where I'm like, God, I really want to fucking hear some podcast about what goes on nowadays.
I know, we hear so many. Honest to God, I hear so many podcasts. I want to hear one about the Royal Rumble. I want to hear one about the last year. You know what I mean? Like, I really do. I want to hear about the changes in structure, because they went out of their way to not use NXT this year.
Mm-hmm.
They went out of their way to say NXT is not on this level anymore.
I want something that goes back to ideally that 2018 apology and be like, this was leading up to that. But I want to hear about the Bischoff stuff with the executive director stuff. I want to hear about.
That's probably where I would start it, because to me, the 2018 apology leads to Becky, Seth, and Kofi win at WrestleMania. I always say, no matter what anyone says, that they lived up to that apology. If you look at that year's Mania, it's all good. Everything that comes out of that Mania is good, except for the fact that it ended at like 12:30 in the morning. To me, it's all right, we need executive directors. And it's Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff. And then like 2 weeks later, after they start, it's, never mind, we need Bruce. Like, that's where I want to start.
I want to know whether it's like another Conrad podcast, or it's like a shoot interview somewhere with somebody else. I don't know. I want to know. I want to hear the story about what happened with Shane here. I want to hear, well, we were deciding this, but like kind of like what Freddie Prinze Jr. is doing, where lately he's kind of like, hey, this is what we were going to do with Jeff Hardy. And, then they decided that. And hey, I knew that Triple H didn't like me after this happened. Like, I want to know these things.
Granted, I will say I'm a little tired of hearing Freddie talk about pushing Jeff Hardy, because somehow that story always goes back to that. But that does give you some insight on what a writer does, what like him specifically, who was brought in as a name, does as a writer. And I would love to get more insight on that kind of stuff, because this Shane McMahon thing, to me, like, WrestleVotes put out that cryptic tweet of it could have ripple effects for years to come. Sean put out a report saying that morale is at a low. That somebody who's been there for a while said they've never felt less heard.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, which we'll get to later, or maybe even now, I look at the financial call and some of the things that Steph was saying, and I'm like, oh, because they've completely pivoted away from pro wrestling again, if not harder than ever before.
So before we get into the financial stuff, just for the pure sake of a bullshit guess, who do you think that was that said that they feel less heard than ever before? Just pure speculation.
I can honestly say I don't know. This would be pure speculation. I think if it's someone that's been there for a while, the name that pops up in my brain is Dolph Ziggler. right? Because like Dolph's been there for a while. Dolph, I was just watching Star Series '06. He was there, right? Like he's probably one of the last people who remembers when Vince was actually kind of super accessible, and probably watched it go from, okay, you have to go through like 5 other people. Okay, now you have to go through 7. Okay, now you can't talk to him at all. You know what I mean?
If it's
Like,
somebody who's been there forever, was it implied that they were like a main event talent?
no.
Huh. Because I was thinking for a little while, I was like, oh, well, if it has to be somebody that's like in the main event towards that kind of thing, then I would think maybe it could be somebody like a Sheamus, or I guess maybe you could go with somebody like Kofi Kingston, Big E, that kind of deal.
Kofi's been there long enough.
Could be Cesaro. But then again, Cesaro's like...
He's definitely been there long enough.
He's just sort of like, yeah, they don't fucking want to push me, whatever. He gets it. He should just leave, but that's another story. I don't know. I'm curious about that too. Like, I want to know who is saying that stuff. Curious as a fan, curious as somebody who wants to be involved in this kind of stuff. But let's talk about those financials, because you did some deep dive into that stuff. I read like a very, very, very trimmed up report that I didn't pay much attention to, because I was just like, this is numbers bullshit.
I listen to the call. Every time they do it, I listen. Because I remember when I first started listening to these calls, like Vince was still on them. And Vince would just be like, yeah. It's crazy. So I remember those things. Noteworthy to me is Steph saying, first of all, she called the Rock a Hall of Famer, which is either foreshadowing, or I'm talking to a bunch of people that
don't really pay attention. Yeah.
So Rock is a Hall of Famer. And the other thing was, they're harping on this NIL program, right? And the idea that now all these collegiate athletes who maybe get, scouted for shock pudding, or like some ridiculous thing that they'll never be able to use anywhere outside of the Olympics, or like some niche market, have the WWE. So I found that interesting that Steph was like, we are the number one plan B for athletes everywhere. She
didn't really say that, did she?
No.
Okay. Because that would have been like...
But it's
but that's basically what she would have said, right?
That's almost like what she was saying if you look at it, because she's like, what happens if they don't get picked up by the NFL or the NBA or that? It's like, okay, so you're just literally saying, give us your tired, hungry, and poor, and not worthy, and we'll take them. And to me, like, they're just completely pivoting towards this idea of, we're getting people that wouldn't be wrestlers otherwise. And not that that's bad, but it really made me feel like, I don't know, you're still going to need wrestlers at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like, if you're thinking about in a few years, the business is just going to be a bunch of people who never wanted to be in the business, that kind of sucks.
Also, how does this fucking program make any sense? The company that does not want to do wrestling and wants to distance themselves from sports as much as possible, and is always, always, always valuing promos and character. And, hey, look what happened with advertised for SmackDown tonight. Ronda Rousey will talk, Drew McIntyre will talk, and Roman Reigns will talk. That's all they advertised ahead of time, was 3 talking segments. Because let's be honest, if they were able to do what they wanted to do, Raw and SmackDown would be 90% talking. And it's just like,
I think there's a good chance we get back to that soon.
Yeah, and that's that's not what a lot of people watch this for. Of course, a lot of people don't watch it to just watch a bunch of series of maneuvers over and over again without any character, but when we, like, you and I were talking about this, however many weeks ago, we were saying, like, well, we really hope that NXT 2.0 has got a little bit more character in it to go inside, coincide with the wrestling. And then it was like, oh shit, you're just throwing characters at the wall that suck for the sake of a character, and the people can't wrestle. Okay, well, that's totally different. That's not what we were looking for. That's overcompensation in the opposite way. Now it's the wrong way, 180 degrees. Just because it's like, oh, what do you do? And then that's how they fill in the blanks. It just doesn't make any sense that this next in line thing is like, well, we'll take somebody who's an athlete and then we'll teach them how to wrestle and hopefully they'll have character. That's how you get these fucking people that come out and it's like, they stand in front of a couple of judges, which at this point they're firing all their fucking performance people. So who's going to be the judge anyway?
Because they're going to get real, like, athletic conditioning coaches and shit.
But I mean, like, who would judge the character? Because those are going to be the people that are going to be like...
Well, they've got Sean. Sean's not going anywhere unless Sean decides to go anywhere. I don't think Sean's going anywhere.
Like, imagine you get, like, 20 athletes that are, like you said, like, oh, this one's been in javelin at the Olympics. And Sean's like, cool. Tell me about yourself. And then you end up with these characters that end up being like, hey, my name's like Stevie McWilliams, and I can juggle. You're the juggling fool. Oh. And then 2 weeks later, they're not a character anymore on NXT. That shit sucks. Nobody likes it. Yeah. So anyway, they were talking about that a lot.
Let's dissect that a little bit, because yeah, you're absolutely right. But at the same time, I think they look at it and they see, well, let's be beyond wrestling. Because the other things they talked about were the metaverse, which nobody understands. Like, you try to tell people, hey, WWE is looking to join the metaverse, and they think that they've entered a partnership with Facebook. And it's like, no, the metaverse exists beyond Facebook rebranding itself as Meta. The metaverse is this concept, and it's like, virtual reality and all that stuff, and people don't get it. One caller was smart enough to ask, hey, when the TV rights are up, are you looking to stay with Fox on broadcast? Or are you looking to move completely to streaming? What's up? And they're like, well, sports are still on broadcast for the majority of them. And we already have our premium live events on streaming. So for the time being, we'd like to stay on broadcast. Ask us again when the time comes. We'll see what the world looks like. Which, honestly, that's the best answer you can give, right?
It's such a non-answer, though.
But I think the answer is, if we had to make the decision today, yes, we stay on broadcast. If it just so happens that in 2 years when the rights are up, that, all sports have moved to Netflix, then maybe we have a shot at Netflix.
I hate company speak so much. Like,
I would not want to subscribe to something specifically for Raw. I will say that.
Oh, see, that's not happening. They can't possibly expect that to work. If they were to be like, all right, Peacock is going to just have Monday Night Raw, and you have to sign up for whatever this Fox thing for.
To be Peacock? What if it was Netflix?
Well, I'm saying, like, because they got USA, so it's like, oh, Peacock's got Raw, and then on Fox, we decided that we're not going to be on Fox anymore. We're actually going to be on their streaming service for SmackDown. So you have to spend another $9 a month for their stream. Like, people aren't fucking doing it,
Yeah, I don't think they would do that. I think it would be, hey, we're moving everything to Hulu, if Hulu still exists. Although they did pitch it like, hey, we've been in business with Disney all this time because we're on Hulu. And I was like, all right.
So they harped on the Disney thing again?
Not as much as I want them to.
Because they've been really kind of trying to smooch up to Disney for a while, it seems. It's always just kind of like, we're just like Disney. See, we could be part of the family too,
Listen, if I was them, I'd fucking do it too. I'll say it every single time. I want them on Disney Plus. I would never need anything else.
as somebody who obviously is not in these business meetings, because why the fuck do we have to keep saying this stuff? But of course we have to. As somebody who doesn't know, my perception for years now has been, man, if we could sell to Disney and partner up with Disney, that would be so great. Shut up, Peacock. I guess we'll deal with you. Hey, Fox, are you interested in this kind of stuff? But can we can we control everything though? And can you make us seem like an even bigger deal? Oh, you're a little bit embarrassed by us. Well, we've got Peacock here. Then Peacock is like, yeah, motherfucker. Then they're like, I told you to shut up, Peacock. Like, that's what it seems like. Have you been watching Peacemaker?
No, I haven't, unfortunately.
What's the most recent episode you saw?
I saw the first 3.
All right, so you've seen the Vigilante and Peacemaker relationship a little bit, right?
A little bit.
Where it's like Vigilante's very clearly wants to be Peacemaker's best friend, and Peacemaker's just sort of like you're not my best friend. But it's like they're allies. That's what I get with like the NBC Universal, Comcast, Peacock kind of relationship with WWE. It's like they know that they can stick around with them, and they'll treat them like they're important enough if the big deal doesn't go through. And then in the meantime, it's like, but you're not Disney, you know? That's how it feels from me. I don't know. Maybe I'm dead fucking wrong.
I would love to see WWE swallowed by Disney, and only Disney. Only Disney. I have no desire to see them swallowed by NBC Universal. I really don't like Peacock. I really don't like the service. I have no desire to see it. But as far as the other notes from the financial call, a lot of it for me was that Stephanie harping on the NIL program. They touted the Pizza Hut relationship, and they're reading these things off of, forums and formats. So when Stephanie says, the crowd even chanted, "We want pizza" at our Survivor Series event, and everybody collectively who's covering this on the internet just groaned, because it's like, yeah, they weren't into it. It wasn't good. It wasn't the hit that you think it is. Please stop.
Yeah, they didn't chant "We want pizza" to show how great your marketing is. They chanted it because they wanted you to throw fucking pizza at them. And then they did, and then the people were like, all right, that's it. What the fuck? I hate that stuff. It seems like there was, of course, a lot more talk about that their main strategy is how can we license our stuff, right? Where it's just sort of like...
It definitely was, because one of the investors even straight up said, like, cool, you're finally getting into sponsorship and stuff like that, because we can all agree that you've grossly underutilized that in the past. Like, basically saying, why are you just getting around to a Pizza Hut sponsorship, your WWE? Which, in fairness, is true. Like, WWE is a recognizable brand. Why are they just getting there now?
Well, they've always had stuff like that. JR and King have a bucket of KFC at the commentary table and all that,
Yeah, but not as much.
And it's always like, this pay-per-view is sponsored by Cricket Wireless, and
yeah, but the Cricket Wireless sucks.
Lately they've been saying here's on the menu for this week from sponsored by Papa John's for SmackDown. Like, WWE always does that shit. If these people are saying you're just getting around to it, those are the people that are like, you're just getting around to milking even more, and fuck those people. Well, they're the same assholes that are like, you pay cable is supposed to be, you pay for it and there's no commercials, but maybe we can sneak commercials in here, and then we can have commercials as well, and then we can put those little bugs on the screen, the bottom graphic on it. Fuck those people. If you're that guy who wants that, middle finger right there, pal.
In fairness, he is an investor in their company. So
fuck him.
Yes,
I don't care. I don't give a shit. Lose money.
I for one do not stand for anybody losing money. I want more money.
Listen, James or whatever your name is.
Listen, Tony, I want more money. And in saying that, the way to get more money is by our wonderful listeners saving money, perhaps on important things like below the belt grooming right before Valentine's Day. Am I right?
That is true. Valentine's Day is coming up, and if you want to make sure that you are spick and span and all set to go for whatever you do that night, we're not going to judge you. Then you want to make sure that you head on over to manscaped.com actually, we're not doing /Smark anymore.
Manscaped.com code Smark.
Code is Smark.
I want you to save the money.
I'm all riled up from this investor call guy. No, see, I get that guy wanting to save some money and make some more money and everything like that. And, you got to improve yourself and everything like that. But fuck that guy. I don't want to apply the same thing to you. No, fuck you. Fuck the idea of using nobody's promo code. Instead, use our promo code SMARK, SMARK. Get yourself 20% off and free shipping. All these products are great. You're going to feel great after you're using them. I got a wife who's going to, give you a thumbs up for any product like that because I tested them all out and she likes them all. So she's in the other room right now. I'll get her on another one, I promise. But yeah, Manscaped is great. They are a product that I don't mind promoting because of how great they are and because of how nice they are to us and how great everybody that has been trying their products has been saying everything is. Not a single person out of all the products has mentioned anything about being even just, it's okay. Everybody's talking about how great it is. So take not just my word for it, and Rob's and Callum's and Dace's and Ethan's and everybody that's been a part of this site, all the other people as well. I'm sure that other people can leave a comment below and tell us your best stuff that you've got from Manscaped over these past couple of months, or if you've been a subscriber or something even longer than that, tell us about that too. What's your number one recommendation? Drop a comment below, that kind of deal.
Listen, they got the crop mops, they got the body wash, they've got the refined cologne, they've got the grooming kit for your nails, because every detail is important. Because like Tony said, he wants to get his wife on another one. And if you want to make sure that you get your significant other on another one, you got to use Manscaped. Because that's how you're going to do it.
Yeah, so go on over to manscaped.com, hit the add the cart for whatever it is that you're doing on that, and then type in that promo code SMARK, 20% off and free shipping. Take advantage of that while you can. Thank you to Manscaped for sponsoring us for this episode, and fuck that guy from advertising. Because seriously, no, don't do that. Don't be all like, oh, how can you add more commercials and all that? You know what? You probably have enough money. Invest in something else. Don't screw somebody's product up. Be that guy that buys AMC stock or something stupid. I don't know. Yeah, that guy's gonna leave a comment. No. He still gets to fuck you. Well, let's move over to some TV talk. The number one story that I had written down for the TV talk is honestly, it's from NXT UK. Funny enough.
Was it that B. Priestley's injured?
Yep. Blair Davenport. She has been repackaged and heading towards her way towards a title win over Miko Satomura. We were figuring that this was going to be the Shawn Michaels rule where she was going to lose the first one, win the second one. And we don't know for sure now because she got injured in the match and they apparently recorded this in December. So it's been an entire month that she had to wait to be like, yeah, by the way, I'm on crutches. It looked pretty bad. Did you get a chance to see it?
I did. It sucks because I really thought she was going to win and now she's injured. For
I don't know how long because we don't know what actually happened. There's no real okay, and this is the injury, and that's what, is going on with this. But I mean, the way she lands, her leg does not move the way that it's supposed to. It's just kind of, I'm assuming a sprained ankle at the very least, but she's going to be out for a little bit. So I am assuming those.
Good match before that.
I didn't pay too much attention to the match itself, so I can't really judge that, but when it ended out of nowhere, I was just like, I missed something. What the hell's going on here? And of course, you're looking at that and it's like, that's not an angle. Her leg actually does get messed up. So do you think they're going to be waiting for her and keeping the belt on Miko? Or do you think that they're going to transition it to somebody else?
Do they have anybody else?
I don't know. See, I thought that she was just going to win this year, and of course, plans have to change. But I was thinking if she didn't win, the only other thing that could make any sense to me is that they would have built up Amelia McKenzie enough and done the whole teacher and student thing, but they haven't. So unless that's a story that they just kick into gear and it's like Miko beats Myla Grace and I'm Isla Dawn and all these other kind of people in the meantime, and then we get to the point that Amelia's won enough matches that she can be in that position. It all kind of depends, I think, on how long is Davenport going to be out. If she's going to be out for a month or two, they can wait. If she's going to be out until, September, I don't think the belt's staying on Miko.
But even if she is, why not? Like, what do they really have going on?
True. This is it's not a moneymaker.
Champion for like 800 days.
Yeah. It's not a moneymaker brand. It's not something that they put a lot of investment in. They record multiple episodes. They can kind of get away with doing that. Yeah, I guess. The downside for that too, though, they record multiple episodes in a shot. So you figure if you are out from an injury, you're out for a while.
Yeah. And hopefully she's been injured long enough that we might not even know, and maybe it's near the conclusion of it, because they're taping, what are they taping, like next week or week after?
I don't know. So I don't even think they know.
Hopefully she's on the mend soon, because she's a really great wrestler.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where that would have gone. Again, I want to hear these podcasts. I want to know what the story was. Backtrack to some of these other things, though. Not seeing anything that we should really bother to talk about from Monday Night Raw. That isn't just a setup for more of the Elimination Chamber stuff, because that's pretty much all that they had done. The academic race, that was the thing.
Well, it was a scooter race.
Yeah. NXT, we had Roderick Strong lost another match. That's not looking great for him. Cora Jade is now going to be teaming with Raquel Gonzalez. They do not have people for this Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic for women now.
Real quick. Brian Alvarez was like, I don't know if they're going to be able to start the tournament. Well, they're clearly going to do the tournament. It's just that it's going to be a very short one.
It'll be like 2 goddamn teams,
So that's a match.
Yeah. They shouldn't have fucking done it.
Tag team match. Yeah.
It's like you start off the tournament already in the finals. That's all kind of blah. They had a boner joke this week.
Yeah, I heard about that. Tell me more.
So Malik Blade and Idris Enofe are backstage. They had mentioned last week that it's a whole you should ask out Mandy Rose kind of thing. And Mandy Rose pops up. She's getting chased by Kaylee Ray, and she falls into Malik's lap. Later on, later on, meaning like 10 seconds later, Kaylee Ray runs in, chases her off. Faye's like, we should go after them. And Malik Blade's like, I can't stand up right now.
No.
And it's just like, because he's got an erection.
No, that didn't happen.
It fucking happened.
Oh, God. And how's the relationship between Brooks Jensen and Caden Carter going?
Well, there was a backstage segment where he was like talking to Indy Hartwell and Persia Perota about getting the wrong signal, and it was like, I'm really into Caden, but not like that, but maybe in the future, and I really like her and all this, and it's going in that direction.
In fairness, great person to ask, Indy Hartwell. She had one of the only successful wrestling weddings on TV.
She understands the nonverbal communication. She gets one look from Dexter Lumis, and she's ready to jump his bones. He probably uses Manscaped. There was that. There was people were talking about this whole Wendy Chu thing. Wendy Chu beats Amari Miller, and prior to that, Amari Miller was talking to Tiffany Stratton about the credit card stuff or whatever, and Wendy Chu ends up with Tiffany Stratton's credit card, and Tiffany is in the ring going like, no, 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 no. And it's like, you can go fucking after her. You know that?
Cancel the credit card.
You can cancel the credit card. If she uses the credit card, it's credit fraud. None of this shit makes sense. You know? But then again, we're talking about a wrestling program where one of the characters is, I just woke up from my nap. So.
I mean, I want that character. I want to be that character.
Yeah, but prior to the match.
I hate NXT 2.0, and I tried to like it. I did. It's so lame.
Almost everything about it sucks. I hate it. It's so bad.
Lame. It's like Disney Channel lame.
And it's not even just bad stories like that. There's just bad booking and everything too. Like they've done this
point, I don't care about the booking. Like it's just a lame. Like the stories are so fucking dumb.
But there's also bad like setup for the future, because it's like we've had maybe 4 vignettes for Draco Anthony, and of course they're doing the whole Draco Anthony makes his debut. He motherfucking wrestled at 205 Live like 6 times.
Hey!
But you're not supposed to know that. So Draco Anthony pops up and he fucking loses. And he's up against Andre Chase, who's seemingly more like a babyface each and every week. And it's like, is Draco Anthony supposed to be a heel? Stop having him cut vignettes about that you're supposed to be like cheering him. If he's supposed to be a babyface, why do you have him up against babyface? Why does he fucking lose? What good does this do for anybody?
Let's just be grateful that we are 2 people who understand what logic is, so that we can call this stuff out.
It's horribly dumb. I'm not liking it at all. And I could say the same thing for SmackDown. SmackDown was, again, as I mentioned, advertised as 3 promo segments, because the matches were Ricochet and Ridge Holland again. That led to Ricochet and Cesaro against Ridge Holland and Sheamus again. Jimmy Uso quickly beating Eric. Aaliyah beating Natalya again by countout. Jinder Mahal lost a champion contenders match against Shinsuke Nakamura, despite the fact that in the previous segment they just announced Sami Zayn's finally going to get his his Intercontinental title match in 2 weeks. You know, the night before.
Has Jinder turned babyface yet, Terry?
He hasn't yet. It's a shame. Humberto Carrillo and Angel Garza lost their names. They are now just Angel and Humberto.
Well, we knew that like 2 months ago.
I thought that they were still referring to them as that. That's dumb, and I hate it.
Nope, it's been like, I can tell you when it was, because I wrote an article about it. Hold on. Because Big E welcomed Angel to the No Name Club, or like the Lost Name Club, or whatever it was. Because obviously, you know, Big E, the only person who's just like, I used to be called Langston. You know, that was a thing that used to happen in my life. Like, yeah, I'm going way back, so it's been quite a few months, Tony.
Well, if you love
November
these
9th.
Wow, really? If you love rematches, you got Charlotte Flair versus Naomi again. You got Drew McIntyre versus Madcap Moss at Elimination Chamber. You didn't see that at fucking day 1.
Well, now I'm genuinely interested in just sharing this with you. Biggie tweeted at Angel, "Welcome to the Brotherhood. Meetings are the 3rd Wednesday of every month. Talk to Cesaro to coordinate what food and beverage to bring." And Mustafa Ali, this well before he wanted to leave, says, as a former distinguished guest of honor, said Brotherhood, because he did get his name back.
Right.
I can wholeheartedly say you'll enjoy these meetings. They are very short.
I wonder what Apollo Crews has to say.
Well, Ivar chimes in and says, "Why was Eric never invited?" because that's one of the funniest interactions I've ever covered on social media. They have cookies, like it's great.
Kevin Owens is gonna pop up. He's gonna be like, "Have the chocolate chip?"
Well,
Don't
they
blame
should
him.
always be chocolate chip.
It should always be best chip. Best chip. I mean, best cookie. AEW side of things. Let's head on over to there. Moxley beat Wheeler Yuta. He was supposed to face Brian Kendrick. And if you didn't hear the Brian Kendrick thing, let's put it this way. He might be second guessing wanting to leave WWE because jump straight into but remember you said this and that match gets pulled.
Yeah.
So that's not looking good for Brian Kendrick going forward. Tony Khan had said, like, hey, there's no room for that kind of stuff in AEW. We're going to reassess some things. Do you think he ends up going there, or do you think that that's dead in the water already?
I do think he ends up eventually landing there because I think time will be on his side in this one. Because he's already apologized. He's like, I'll never get over this. I'll always carry the shame and things of that nature. I mean, if not AEW, then maybe he just never wrestles or wrestles on TV, I should say. But speaking of, what do you think about Nia Jax? Because we didn't cover Nia Jax.
What about her?
Are you not aware of her interview with Renee?
I've seen some bits and pieces there about like it really hurts her feelings if people think that she tried to hurt people on purpose.
Well, the one that everybody found interesting was the one where she says, yeah, they wanted me for the Royal Rumble, and I said, fuck no.
Oh, yeah, that one. See, from the ones that I had seen, just little bits and pieces of, that I am fully in her corner for.
Right.
Don't call me up after you let me go and act like, oh, I'm just going to come fucking groveling. No, fuck you. Especially with the idea in mind that if you agree, it's not a guarantee you're going to be in it. You're going to enter a pool's worth of people that Vince and company can say, we want these ones and not these ones, and these ones are only backups, or these ones are guaranteed no. Nah, fuck you.
I think it's interesting that they were like, well, you'll get paid, and she's like, I'm still under the 90 days. You'll pay me either way. Which,
yeah.
Good for her.
Good for her on that. What I disagree with is this idea of like, it really hurts that people thought that I was injuring people on purpose. And it's like, I don't think anybody was criticizing her saying that she was doing it on purpose. I think everybody was just kind of saying she doesn't know how not to do it. Like, because she speaks on herself. She's saying, well, if I throw an elbow, it's going to be different than somebody who's half my size. And it's like, yeah. And then that's the problem. If you're not safe, you're not safe. And, the numbers, they speak for themselves. How many people got injured in matches with Nia Jax? It's just a fact eventually,
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, you might not have been wanting to do that ever for anybody. I highly doubt she's that much of a bitch that she would be like, I'm going to try to fuck that person up,
So I think that
she's
probably never going to wrestle again.
I don't think she will.
Because, like, what's the word for it? The candid nature with which she spoke was like, yeah, I don't give a shit. I've never, like, this is my truth. Here's everything.
I'm going to backtrack on that. She will wrestle again. It'll just be a guest spot on WWE when things blow over. I don't think she'll actually be like a, member of the roster. But you can see her in 5 years doing a guest spot at the Royal Rumble, right?
Maybe.
I
right
think
now,
so.
like she's quickly entering like Ryback territory.
Yeah.
Where it's like, my God, everything you're saying is just so like you're just being you. You know what I mean? Like you don't care. I can honestly say I don't see her sucking up for a job kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like and in some ways, maybe that's what they need. Like maybe they need someone to be like, yeah, screw this. But I just want to get your thoughts on that because that was a big story this week, and I thought we should cover it.
Let's see. Anything else from AEW? MJF beat CM Punk, but that's really not like news. It's kind of just part of how that goes.
The match? Did you watch the match? It was like 40 minutes long.
No, I didn't get a chance to watch it yet.
Good match.
Worth going back and checking out, or is it one of those things where it's like,
go back and check it out because it's surreal that like that match was on free TV. I'm of that era where I still get like awestruck by really long TV matches.
Other than that, I mean, that's all I got.
Danielson wants to form a faction with Moxley. What do you think?
Neat.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm down for it. Why not? Right?
It's like a potato. I just think it's neat.
I think that kind of covers everything. Goldberg's gonna fight. Yeah, that's the thing. So yeah, the Goldberg match is happening.
As first reported by Fightful Select, I legitimately, when the report came out, or the preview of the report that said someone big is coming to Saudi Arabia, I said, Sean, is it Veer? And he said, I don't know if he's coming to Saudi Arabia, but that's not who I'm talking about. I was ready for
that. Would be so much better. Just Veer's coming to Saudi Arabia, and then he steamrolls through people.
He could have won the Royal Rumble, and the whole story is Veer is coming to WrestleMania. That's it.
Would have been great. I would have been down for it. Even, just for the sake of it being like, you know what, it's a troll thing, but who fucking cares? And then, some investor call would come up and he'd be like, I don't think that this is, whatever. And it'd be like, hey, fuck you, James. Or Donovan, whatever his name, I don't know.
What is with you and James?
I don't know.
The investor calls?
That was the name I chose for some reason. Usually I go with Phil. I don't know why I want James. Well, Jimmy.
What do you think about this, Barry? I agree.
Yeah. Shut up. You're just the elephant in the room. So tell us your thoughts on all these things. Drop a comment below. While you're there, hit the like button if you enjoyed this. Hit the share button if you want to pass it around to somebody. Maybe someone wants to complain about my complaints about the investor call thing or something. Do it. Why not? I'll argue with you. And, hit that subscribe button. Too bad. I'll lump you in. I'll tag you in all of them. Hit that subscribe button and ring that little notification bell. That way you know when we go live for things like we did with the post show for the Royal Rumble and what we'll do for the post show for the Elimination Chamber coming up. We got some dark casts coming up, so you can get access to that on the Patreon and on the members only YouTube side of things. I never know what to call that because it's not like, it's the Patreon, but it's YouTube members only platform sidebar. Like what? No. Whatever.
Hold on. We got a late breaking hot tag. As reference, this is a tweet from Tony Khan. As referenced on AEW Rampage, I have a surprise. On AEW Dynamite, live on TBS, a top wrestler will walk through the Forbidden Door and debut in AEW.
Keith Lee, Karrion Kross. Who are you thinking?
Well, he keeps saying Forbidden Doors. So I'm going to say Okada. I have no idea what the travel situation is, but when I hear Forbidden Door, I think contracted to another promotion, making a big splash. If not, if it's just from like the free agency pool, it's Keith Lee.
I kind of hate when people say that they are going, like there's an announcement that they're going to announce something, and then the announcement
past that. The announcement of the announcement came on the show, and then the announcement from the announcement was, hey, stay tuned for this cool thing happening on Wednesday.
But wasn't there an announcement saying he would say something on Rampage?
Yeah. And then
So you're announcing that you're going to do something, and then that is that you are announcing that something will happen. So it's like, okay. It's Keith Lee, I would hope.
Honestly, Wyatt's out there. Like
There are still
WWE
people,
champion Bray Wyatt, who's only wrestled John Cena, The Undertaker, Randy Orton, and The Rock at WrestleMania, is out there. He'd be a pretty good get.
Is that all he's fought?
Yeah. For WrestleMania, yes.
Undertaker match, the Johnson. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Huh. Crazy. But yeah. Darkcasts are coming up. We might be doing stuff necessarily based off of 2 different fantasy card things. I'll put it out there. I did my NXT mock draft card. I've sorted that out. And I also just, on a whim, started to find myself booking the Ultimate Royal Rumble from my perspective. So maybe that'll be a Darkcast. Maybe that'll be something else. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But of course, if you are on the Darkcast tier of the YouTube members only or the Patreon, then you get access to that. You also get the Pick Your Poison tier where you can make sure that we do something if you're missing out on it. Maybe you're like, man, you guys haven't done Call the Spot as a podcast in God knows how many years at this point. Maybe you want us to do it. Pick Your Poison. That's the whole point. But in the meantime, follow us on Facebook and Twitter at SmarkOutMoment. Check out fanboysanonymous.com for whatever else that we're doing on the movie review side of things and talking about video games and comics and TV stuff and whatever like that. Maybe we'll eventually do something based off of Peacemaker just because it is a John Cena type thing. I know at the very least what we're going to get into right after we record this is we're going to watch Catwoman Hunted and do a fan tracks for that one.
Yeah.
We were going to do one for The Matrix, and then I ended up watching it, and I was like, this fucking blows. So I was like, I'm so glad I didn't do that, because that would have, I don't know, worked out all that well. Catwoman Hunted, hopefully it would have been cool. I don't know. I like these DC animated films, so hopefully it's more so like Justice League Dark Apocalypse or whatever it was, and less so Soul of the Dragon, you know? That'll be up on fanboysanonymous.com. Check that out. And stay tuned for everything else that's happening on Smark Out Moment. I don't know what we're doing next week. We'll figure that out when it comes time to it. But if you have any suggestions, drop them in the comments below. Also, stay tuned for the Smark Madness tournament, which Rob had a great idea because I was like, I don't know what to do this year. He was like, why don't we do best video game from WWE? So I have a lot of that stuff already sorted out now for preliminary like templates and everything. So sometime towards the end of the month, I'm thinking probably the day before Elimination Chamber, I'll put up the qualifying round, and there's 82 or so video games that WWE's put out in the past. You get to pick the top 32 that you want to enter the tournament, and then that'll determine the seeding. And then we'll start getting into some Smark Madness tournament stuff too as well.
Yeah, I gave you the quadrants. I gave you everything. You're welcome.
Oh, you gave me the quadrants? I didn't even see that.
Yeah, I said just the 4 decades. 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s.
Might end up doing it that way, yeah. Especially if the seating ends up being like, you know, kind of balancing out that way. But that's something to pay attention to. And then, of course, we'll get into Elimination Chamber, and we'll start getting into a lot of the other things that go along towards that. AEW Revolution's coming up at the beginning of March. Blah, blah, blah. We're at WrestleMania, you know. So stay happening around this spot, and follow me at Tony Mango all over the place, and follow Rob at Dude Felice.
Yep, follow me at Dude Felice everywhere, please. And thank you. Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, everywhere. And I really want to grow a following and just do more wacky stuff. So please help me do that. Thank you.
And thank you for listening to this, everybody. We will see you next time. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.